We've got Leatherface with us today.
Look at this guy.
As
even motion sensor.
Well, yeah, I don't want to do that. So he's
okay.
Yeah, he'll make a bunch of noise.
He makes noise.
Yeah, but we're doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 today. I'm overjoyed with this because, as we all know, Gene's kind of been on a roll of picking the movies.
I have the poster.
And it's nice to get back to a movie that I really enjoy. Gene's all about the. It's got to have some deep meaning, and there's got to be good acting, and it's really got to mean something.
There's got to be some kind of theme going on. I think horror movies should make you feel uncomfortable, but if it's just horror comedy, that's not going to make you go. I don't know. That's just me.
And that's the interesting. I'm glad Gene brought that up because this was part of a 3-picture deal with Cannon Films, and for those of us that were around in the 80s, of course, Cannon is a big deal. Because they supported movies like this and directors like Tobe Hooper, and of course they made Chuck Norris kind of who he is with all his movies, and Charles Bronson made like 35 Death Wish sequels because of them. But
I only saw the first one.
Yeah, but it was part of a 3-picture deal, but the caveat was one of the pictures had to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So he did Life Force and Invaders from Mars. We did Life Force on this show. And
I don't think
you weren't there because if you remember, that's the one with Matilda May, and her acting performance consists of her being nude the whole time.
I thought it was on vacation or something.
No,
I just revolted.
You just said, I'm going on vacation and not doing that movie. So Tyken and I did that. But this is the 4th Tobe Hooper movie, so he holds some sort of award on our show for the most talked about director, because we did Chainsaw, of course.
The first one, the original.
Life Force. And then we did The Funhouse. And now we're talking Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah, and this is the blue.
That's the laser disc.
Yeah, laser disc. Yeah, and the picture on the back of the laser disc is the same as the one.
Yeah, that's the movie poster right there. We'll put Leatherface down.
No, we should keep him up. I'll hold him so he won't fall.
But here's the poster.
Oh yeah.
And so I dug this out of my shed and put it in a frame just for this show. But there's that.
Oh, let me lower him one more time. I'm going to throw this out there to our many subscribers. Yeah, we laugh. But this is I guess they're in a certain pose that's indicative of a very famous movie. If you could put in the comments what that movie is.
Well, I'm hoping
that, we'll give you kudos.
Give you a shout out.
We'll give you a shout out. We are not in the position for cash prizes.
No, never, and never will be.
Never will be. Yes.
No, that's a good point, because people should know what this is representing, but we'll see if people don't know.
Yeah,
Although you didn't really know until I pointed it out.
I didn't know. I was kind of ashamed. Then you showed it to my wife, and she caught it in like 30 seconds.
Right.
I think even less than that. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is kind of the tone of the whole film, right? It's kind of a horror comedy. But Gene, let's get right in. What are your thoughts?
Well, as I'm holding, Leatherface's leg here so he doesn't fall. Yeah. I just really feel like in movies, people have to act like people. There can be, of course, when you go to a movie in general, there's that suspension of disbelief, the whole thing. We've talked about this before, but this whole thing that even makes movies even work on a very fundamental level. But people have to act like people, and when people start not acting like people, or when things start behaving in ways that that they don't behave, I really start losing it. And even this horror comedy, but it starts off with these 2 guys, there's drunken college kids, in this very nice Mercedes sports car convertible, which I know is expensive and extremely fast. But anyway, they are on a bridge in North Texas, Red River, Texas, and it's about to be the University of Oklahoma versus the University of Texas football game. So everyone's in drunken revelry, right? So the kids have a gun, and they're driving down the roads in the Red River, Texas. It's extremely rural. I actually have been there, and so they're shooting up signs, And you can tell people really do that because you drive by the signs.
Right, Welcome to Alaska.
Yeah, exactly. But then they come across a truck they shouldn't have come across. Yeah, and they end up on a bridge. And they're going forward, and then the truck is going backwards. And I was just like, well, it's going really fast, and then the bridge seems really long. and then Leatherface pops out, you know, with this chainsaw like this one, and then he starts cutting into the sports car right next to him. And they're going like 80, 90. They have to be going really fast, but you know, trucks, no car can go in reverse that fast. You know, and there's just little things, you know, like that kind of like ruin it for me. And then this certainly is horror comedy, you know, but I wish he went into more of the comedy, Tobe Hooper, because some things are not very funny. That whole, like, you know, almost penetration with the chainsaw right in the radio station, you know, and so this is not funny. But other parts were funny because the guy has like Leatherface's buddy.
It's his brother, Chop Top, who in the first movie was in Vietnam.
Yeah, but in this movie, he has a metal plate in his head. And then, like, to fight Chop Top. Yeah, they break this lamp, and they stick the electrodes of the broken bulb to his metal plate that's in his head, because now you can see it, I guess. Mm-hmm. And they shock him. He's like, which is pretty funny. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So there are definitely horror comedy elements, and then plus Dennis Hopper's whole rendition, this whole movie is just like, is he trying to be serious, or is he trying to be serious funny?
Dennis Hopper in this movie.
What is he really? I don't really get it. But
he is just so far off the deep end of his obsession for revenge that it's just awesome.
Yeah, at the beginning, the girl, they record, like when they're driving and their car's getting all chopped up, you know, they're on the phone with this radio DJ, and so she records their whole demise. And so she takes the tape to Dennis Hopper, because he's like a private investigator.
No, he's a Texas Ranger.
Texas Ranger, yeah. But he's definitely on the downside, right? So
the obsession has eaten him to the core.
Yeah. And I love that they go into his room. And of course, it's, you know, the big games come in, and there are just drunken people everywhere, like in the hotel where there's up and down the hallway, drunken people, which I guess maybe happens in Texas. I don't know. But yeah, then they go into his room, and he's really dismissive of her live tape right there that has, you know, audio of this. And then he's sitting down in his hotel room, and it's early in the morning, and he's already drinking his Mexican tequila.
Well, it is Dennis Hopper.
It is Dennis Hopper, yeah. So, but yeah, this movie, it's horror comedy. It's, again, I wish they had gone more on the comedic element. I think it would have been a better movie, you know.
Well,
but it's okay. It's a watch. It's a good watch.
Oh no, this is a great movie.
Okay.
One of the beauties of this film really is, you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which the level of intensity in that movie, there's no way you're ever going to top that. And so what Tobe Hooper did here was, I'm going to kind of go in a different direction, and it's not going to be scary. It's going to be more over the top. And he really plays up. I love the fact that Jim Sydow was brought back as the older brother, the cook from the first one. He's running a very successful chili place, barbecue place.
I didn't mention that.
You know, and
that's the comedy right there too.
And he is just so great in this film. I just really love him, and I love the fact that he is always complaining about how the small businessman always just gets screwed over by the big corporate entities.
Can I throw in the part about the chili cook-off? Mm-hmm. That's just so funny. Again, at the beginning of the movie, in a way, it's like I'm talking about the beginning of the movie, because it's high, and then just kind of like, maybe, I don't know, but the movie, I don't know. But that guy Sydow is in this Texas chili cook-off, right? So you got to think, who knows chili? Texans know chili, right? So this has got to be the greatest chili ever. And he wins the contest. But you recognize the guy. Oh, that's the guy from the first movie. Mm-hmm. And so, and he talks about the meat. What's the guy? Was this a reporter ask him?
He understands prime meat.
It's the meat. And then you just know what kind of meat is in the chili.
Well, and she bites into something hard, which you can see is clearly a piece of bone, and he's like, "Oh, it must have been one of them hard-shell peppercorns."
Wasn't it a tooth or something?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm done.
Sorry. No, it was that, and that's the great part, because he his character is exactly the same as from the first one, which I think is so beautiful that they were able to do that. It's just an older version of that character where he is still trying to make it in this world with his small business. And he's just complaining left and right about how he's just continually getting screwed over by the man. And it's just a real joy to have him back.
Yes.
But I also think Dennis Hopper's performance is just absolutely beautiful. I love him in this movie. And this is Dennis Hopper coming off of the critically acclaimed Blue Velvet, the critically acclaimed River's Edge. And how did he end up in this movie? I don't know. But he is
There's just got to be a good story.
Right. Well, and I just love how he just is so over the top, and he starts spouting scripture at the end as he's chainsawing stuff down. And it's just a delight to see him doing this role. And of course, on all the DVDs and everything now, it's just Dennis Hopper in. But that's not how it was really when the movie first came out. You don't see his name on here except for the bottom part.
No, you hardly see it
But he does a great job in this. The only thing I wish Tobe Hooper would have done, because his name is Lefty, of course you needed to cut off his right arm at some point in the movie, so he truly would have been Lefty, right?
Yes.
For those who maybe aren't aware, there is a nice quick cameo from Tobe Hooper in the scene where Stretch is going to meet Dennis Hopper in that hotel.
The DJ, her name is Stretch. Yeah.
One of the characters, a random person walks by and gets hit with some stuff from the partiers, and he throws a beer can back at them, and that's Tobe Hooper. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, the drunken revelers in the hallway. Yeah. And I got to throw this in there, but again, one of the gems of this movie was watching Dennis Hopper. He's trying out the chainsaws. Yeah, it's like the movie, like a scene in the movie Terminator, where the Terminator goes into the gun store, and then he says, "I want that one, and I want that one." And the guy pulls all his counter is full of guns. And he says, I think I'll close early. But it's like that. He goes into, I guess, their chainsaw stores.
Right, it's cut right chainsaws.
Yeah. And he's looking at all the chainsaws, and he gets them out, and he goes into the front of the building, and there's of course there's a log there. You got to try out your chainsaw. So he's trying out the chainsaws, and I got to let go of him. Mm-hmm. Because then he gets these two little chainsaws. It's so funny. And then he's got like one chainsaw here and one chainsaw here. It's just like moving around so he can get the feel of them. So he's got to have range of motion.
Well, and I love the fact that the poor old store owner is just like, what's happening here? This guy just throws down a big wad of cash, and he's just randomly grabbing chainsaws.
Yeah. But he was pretty happy at the wad of cash.
Right, and then he's like, "Yeah, go hit those logs a bit." And boy, does Dennis Hopper go to town on those logs.
He gets one. He buys 3 chainsaws. One's a long saw like that, and then the 2 shorter ones.
Mm-hmm. And that scene right there when he is going to town on those logs really kind of reminds me more of the feel, I guess, of the first movie. The music kicks in right there. There's smoke just blowing off these chainsaws, bits of wood or falling all over Dennis Hopper's face.
He's covered with it.
And it's really like, yep, this guy is so obsessed with his vengeance tour here that bad stuff's going to happen for everyone.
But it's just so over the top. Mm-hmm. And you can see that it's over the top, and it's just really funny.
Yeah, they definitely are not playing it up for scares at all. It's this over the top 1986 era Reaganomics kind of stuff.
86,
and just really over the top. Tom Savini is doing the gore effects here. There's not a lot of them, but when they occur, pretty extreme. Guy gets the top of his head sawed off and blood spewing everywhere. The design of Chop Top is pretty awesome, and kind of gross because I think his plate itches a little bit because he keeps lighting this coat hanger and peeling his flesh off of it.
That's right.
But and then there's this one character, his name is LG, and it's Stretch's little production manager maybe at the radio station or something like that.
Yeah.
Technician of some kind.
The assistant.
And there is a great scene that he gets kind of captured, or hit in the head with a mallet about 50 times.
And then you think, this guy's got to be dead. He's got to be dead.
And no.
But no,
No.
not dead.
He wakes back up after his face has been removed by Leatherface and put on Stretch.
Yeah.
So
Stretch is the DJ, the female DJ.
So he's having a conversation with Stretch, who's wearing his face, which I just think is great.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
Yeah, and they do a homage to the first movie with the dinner scene.
Yeah, and the grandpa, right?
The grandpa, who is now identified as being 137 years old. He was able to live this long because of his strict liquid diet, which consists of blood.
Liquid diet. I have to say, just like in the first movie, though, he can't hold a hammer. He just can't do it. They put the hammer in his hand, and they put a little Stretch, just like poor Sally in the first one. Put her head down. It's like, Grandpa, get her, get her, get her, get her.
Yeah, and just like in the first one, the cook ends up just grabbing the hammer and smacking her. So
but she lives. Stretch lives.
Yeah, and the set design here is pretty cool. Tobe Hooper and his production team did run across an abandoned amusement park, and so they used that for this. So that's a real location, real set there.
Do you know where that is? Where in Texas is it?
I don't know where it was. I mean, I'm sure it's long since torn down at this point, but just one of the beauties of kind of low budget filmmaking, although this did have a budget of $8 million, but is you got to find sets and got to find stuff. You can't always build everything you want. And
Yep.
And they did a good job here.
Yeah, probably the $8 million they spent on the interior sets of the amusement park. Because they seem to, like, in the amusement park, they seem to go underground, of course. They're all this labyrinth of tunnels, so I can see they're probably spending a lot of money building these tunnels.
Well, and kind of trying to recreate the look a little bit of the original Texas Chainsaw Farmhouse, because they've got bones everywhere and weird bone sculptures that they've created and stuff like that. But it's just an over-the-top movie, and I really appreciate, again, Tobe Hooper saying, I can't top my first movie, so I'm going to go in a different direction, make it comedic, make it outrageous, make it over the top, have performances from Dennis Hopper that are just completely off the wall, and go there. So tonally, it's completely different from the first one.
Yeah, and you can tell immediately, because the first one's a very graphic horror tone from the very get-go, because you see this mutilated cow right at the very beginning.
Well, they have the armadillo dead on the road, but then the opening scene of that is the hitchhiker character exhuming that rotting corpse and creating that statue-like thing there in the graveyard.
The tone is gross and foreboding from the get-go on the first one. Yeah, and just the characters, like, they pick up that hitchhiker guy. This is bad news from the get-go, and you're just wondering, why are you picking him up?
Well, they were hippies, and of course it was peace and love and all that. So you did
well, I guess they were trying to do that, yeah.
But I do like the fact that the hitchhiker does make an appearance in this. It's him, Nubbins.
Nice.
Yeah, so they've got him stuffed and whatnot, and so they run around with him.
Wasn't he on the truck?
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
At the beginning, so Leatherface has a big reveal. Because initially he's just manipulating Nubbins.
But Nubbins is just a costume.
Just a stuffed corpse.
Yeah, exactly.
Taxidermied corpse. But
But they remember the crazy college kids. One of them has a gun and he shoots at Leatherface, but Nubbins is right in front of him, and the bullet hits Nubbins and goes away. And you see Leatherface. Yeah.
Well, and Gunnar Hansen was asked to come back to portray Leatherface again. They couldn't reach an agreement. And I was really disappointed with that back in 1986. But as I've watched it again over the years, I don't know if Gunnar Hansen's very large, foreboding presence would have really worked in this film. They needed a smaller Leatherface. This actor
was smaller, right? Yeah, he was more... Yeah,
and Gene mentioned there's kind of this weird coming of age thing going on with Leatherface where he kind of falls for Stretch a little bit. doesn't know how to express those emotions in any appropriate way.
No, not of course not.
And so it wouldn't have worked with Gunnar Hansen
Being so big,
being
right,
so massive.
right.
Although I do like the fact that when the Cook character, Jim Sydow, discovers that Leatherface maybe is enamored with Stretch, he goes on this dialogue sequence about
Yes.
how, it's either going to be sex or it's going to be the saw. What's it going to be? And I love how he says, well, now, boy, you should have asked me these questions. I could have told you. And he's like, sex.
Sex
Well,
or the saw.
nobody knows, right? And but the saw is family, which of course made an appearance then in the third movie, where they actually have it stenciled into the blade of the chainsaw. The saw is family.
The saw is family.
But again, a bigger Gunnar Hansen would not have been able to pull that off on any
just
level.
it's just too.
Yeah, and so
His stature does not say comedy on any level.
no way, no. But this movie, unfortunately, did not make much money. And one of the reasons I think, and you can actually see it on this poster here, is unlike Terrifier 3, where, hey, it's unrated and movie theaters don't really care who goes to see it.
No.
This one was nobody under 18's getting in, and boy, you better have ID and a birth certificate and everything else. Because I remember going into that theater, and man, they were aggressive on, we need your ID and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And they're doing the whole thing with the little light, and they're looking at to make sure.
Are you serious?
Oh, man, they had a little thing
gosh.
saying you have to be this, have to have been born prior to this or after this date or whatever,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, it didn't make its money back. And because half your audience for this movie was 16 probably.
Right. Yeah. And you're excluding that audience right there. Right.
Yeah. And of course, no TV ads or anything because, it's unrated. So it's got to be just this thing that has to be hidden away.
Well, they're scared from the first movie. They're scarred from the first experience.
Remember, though, the first movie, Tobe Hooper was shocked that he didn't get a PG rating. Right.
I don't even know what to say.
I know. And it's funny because when that movie got submitted, the original Texas Chainsaw got submitted to the BBC, right? And I don't remember what their ratings board actual logo is, but when it was trying to go overseas, and that British board of classification was like, no, this movie is not eligible to be shown in our country. And Tobe
Nice.
Hooper was like, well, what can I cut? And they said, nothing. You can't cut anything.
The whole
There's
thing is
nothing,
just revolting.
Yeah, right. There's nothing you can do to make this movie acceptable to our country. Of course, now it's fine, because they've wised up. But
40 years later.
for 20 or 30 years, it was banned, and people were prosecuted for like a video store would get a bootleg copy, and they would try to rent it, and they would get raided and arrested.
Amazing.
Yeah. So,
Amazing.
But anyway, it goes back to Tobe Hooper legitimately thought he could get a PG rating on that movie.
No, it didn't happen.
No. But Gene, thank you for watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah. I mean, you could do worse things with an hour and a half.
Yes.
You could.
Yes.
You can do better things with an hour and a half too. I don't know. Some late night, you got $4 you can spend on a rental.
It's free on Tubi right now, completely uncut.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I mean you have to put up with commercials periodically, but
Yeah, I'm $4 rental off Apple TV.
Yeah.
You get it for 72 hours, and once you start it, you know how that goes.
I fired up the Laserdisc just to go totally old school.
The laser.
Yeah.
It says, of course, but it looks just like a record, of course, but it's not.
Yeah.
I don't care. Take it out. So at least, I bet a lot of people have never even seen a laser disc.
They're quite the thing.
To touch just the edges like an LP.
Oh, you do what you want. It's not like...
Yeah, it's a laser disc.
Well, and
the
Laserdisc...
center hole's a little larger.
Well, and Laserdisc was kind of a cinephile thing, right? Because this was the first experimentation with director commentaries and added scenes and behind the scenes footage, right? Everything's letterboxed and stuff like that. So these were big deals for people that were really into collecting movies, right? And there's a really great Evil Dead one, Evil Dead 2, which is a red Laserdisc. So it's a blood Laserdisc. So,
red?
Yeah, it's red. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And
nice.
So Laserdiscs were cool. They didn't last much past DVDs becoming a thing, but they were around for a while.
Yeah, I wonder why the marketing, why it didn't last, because it's just like a record. It's like people are used to records.
Well, it didn't last because look at how big and bulky those things are. And the Laserdisc players were about 70 pounds. They're heavy, heavy things.
Yeah. Right.
And most Laserdisc players, because these could only keep, I think it was maybe 40 minutes aside or something, or an hour aside.
Oh, that could probably.
And so, Star Wars or a longer movie like Scarface or The Godfather, not only do you have to flip it, you've also got 6 laser discs, that you have to then switch that one out, put the second part in. All
that's
stuff.
not going to work.
The laser disc I have actually will flip it for you, but there's a delay, right? And so that was one of the lame things about Laserdisc, but other than that, I absolutely love Laserdisc. And when I get a chance, like I did with this one, and American Werewolf, I watched the Laserdisc of that when we were doing that. It's a fun retro thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember in college watching a Laserdisc of Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, a friend of mine had Dr. Strangelove on Laserdisc, and it had a audio commentary at the very beginning from none other than Hugh Hefner.
Oh, that's a weird.
I know. I just thought that was a weird comment. That why would Hugh Hefner be narrating a black comedy? Kubrick.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Strangelove.
What was the reasoning there?
I don't know.
I'll have to investigate that.
Although I do remember he mentioned that the whole air-to-air refueling thing has slightly phallic in nature.
Oh, okay. That's the justification to have
maybe.
You Hefner. Perfect.
Yeah.
But Gene, thank you for letting me watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. No. I do. I'm fine with all these artful, really important horror movies, but sometimes I just need
blood.
An absolute, just out of control. What the hell is going on?
There will be
movie.
blood.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Gene, any thoughts about next week?
Oh, you know how we roll. I'm Saturday morning, the day after Valentine's Day. I'm not thinking movies right now.
Okay, very good. We will do something next week for sure. If you've never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, what's wrong with you? Go see that. And we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.